Hare Krishna, my Dandavat pranams to everybody. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. 29th of February, 2024, Thursday, and the most special day we've been waiting for, the appearance day, the 150th Avirbhav, appearance day of our dearmost Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Prabhupada. So we'll glorify him today. It's also the disappearance day of Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. So we'll also mention him today. And we'll have a kirtan first. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dishatarine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Gaura Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshaviti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Iti Namine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Oh Nitai He, 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 oh Nitai He. Jaya Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari. Gaura Hey, 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 Gaura Hey. Oh Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe. Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe. Oh Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shishi Guru Garanga Ganhabha Giri Hari. Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Vrishabhanu Nandini Vajeshwari Radharani Ki Jai. Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai, Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Jai Shila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Surabhi Kunj Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om, Astautar Sarashishimat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om, Astautar Sarashishimat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om, Astautar Sarashishimat Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarzara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Abhirabhav Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Paramahamsa Gaurikishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Saptam Goswami Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Shila Baladev Vidyabhushan Gaudi Vedantaracharya Ki Jai Jai Shila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Treya Ki Jai Jai Shila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhata Dasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Siga Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Antadvip Mayapur Simantadvip Gautandip Madhyadvip Koladip Ritujit Janadip Modandip Rudadip Atmaka Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwara Savar Matmika Shri Brajamandal Ki Jai Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun Ganga Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Shrimati Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Shrimati Yogamaya Purnamasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai Gopishwa Mahadev Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai Ketra Mandal Ki Jai Sarva Vigna Vinashakari Shina Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Akara Mat Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai Shri Keshav Ji Gaudiya Mat Ki Jai Shri Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gauda Premanande Hari Hari Bol Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Priya Surupe Daita Surupe Prema Surupe Sahajabi Rupe Nijana Rupe Prabhuveka Rupe Tatana Rupe Swavilasa Rupe Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunavaratino Kalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarata Dikatamba Sudipita Sadahridare Kandare Spudatu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantamanapetyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Taravo Binindustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Baradram Tatumaranikastiram Kina Kapi Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanatikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Taradarshi Shimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions of times unto our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Taradarshi Shimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And today, on this most glorious day, I'm offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nityalila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimat Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Prabhupada, and all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. My Dandavat pranams to all of you. So this is such an extraordinary day here in Mayapur. We have the Chaitanya Mat, where the Samadhi of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati resides. And today there was hundreds of thousands of people attending the festival and function there. This function has been going for 3 days. And for the first time in history, ISKCON as well as the Gaudiya Math have joined together to celebrate this remarkable personality's 150th 150th appearance day today. So there was great festivity, and an abhishek of his shoes was performed, and all the devotees were sumptuously fed. Kirtan was roaring, and the devotees all seemed to be very happy, comfortably together. So this is historic that this should take place at this particular time. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and especially his noble father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, envisaged this um, scene when the Vaishnavas would all come together and by their collective energy glorify Sachinandan Gaurahari. because this is the principle of all of our acharyas' um, advents, is to simply glorify Sachinandan Gaurahari. Our line, we can say, begins with the Yuga avatar of Sachinandan Gaurahari and comes from Rupa Goswami on down. So all of the personalities representing Srimati Radhika, because this line is carrying her current, Mahaprabhu himself has come to experience her moods. Shri Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritya Hladini Shakti Asmat Ekatmana. Krishna has become one with Shri Radhika. So everything in our movement, in this movement, this current um, parampara system coming from Rupa Goswami is all emanating from the mercy of Srimati Radhika through Sachinandan Gaurahari. So all of these personalities manifest, and we know the history that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he put again because the Gaudiya Math had sunk into a darkness, there hadn't been sufficient um, uh, powerful preachers. So uh, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur came, there were many jungles of Saki Bade, etc., etc., etc. And uh, can you mute your phone, Prabhu? Um, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur established the blueprint for the future of Mahaprabhu's mission and movement. And he'd prayed for a ray of Vishnu, for someone, a son, to manifest, to carry his remarkable teachings through into the next period of time. And we know the past time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, he appeared, and on his body were the markings of tilak. His umbilical cord was wrapped around his body like a Brahman thread, and he had the sign, impressions of a kantimala on his neck. So immediately Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur could recognize he was not an ordinary personality. And when we consider what he actually did, his activities, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave the direction fully and wrote all the bhajans, etc., and cleared so many jungles and gave um, the foundation. But the palace had to be built on top of the foundation. Somebody had to come and erect the palace of Mahaprabhu's conceptions on top of the foundation that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had already planted. So this was, of course, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. And when we consider what an enormous undertaking that was, these are absolutely not ordinary personalities. They are coming from that transcendental world. Radhika's Kaya Vyuha, directly empowered by her to give the jivas this mercy of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has come to give this Swabhakti Shriyam, this service to Unnata Ujjvala Ras, this Manjari Bhav. This is a very, very subtle gift. And the principle of Parakiya Bhav had to be established. This is in the darkest time of Kali Yuga. How are you going to establish that Krishna will be dancing with other men's wives? And this is totally in line with the teachings of our Guru Vargya. How are we going to accommodate this without the empowerment of Krishna directly himself? It's only by the advent of Krishna himself that we can um, be able, by his mercy, be able to accept this Parakya Ras. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he performed many remarkable feats in the world. He established 64 mutts throughout India and attracted so many powerful, powerful young student men to come to his flag, to his mission. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was a foremost runner of those. So many personalities: Bhakti Dvaita Madhav Maharaj, Srila Pramod Puri Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. Um, who else? Srila Vaibhav Puri Maharaj. Huh? Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. All these personalities, they were all powerful luminaries in their own right, and all revealed ultimately their swarups as being followers of Sri Radhika. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he had to establish this, and through his writings, he established the truth of this Parakya Ras. Particularly, he's written one incredible essay called Raising the Divine Temple, or Raising the Palace of Ras. And in this essay, he describes that Srimad Bhagavatam, the crest jewel of all scriptures, proclaims the prominence ultimately of Parakya Ras. And in this essay, he's encouraging his followers that they have to preach this understanding of what is Parakya Ras. And he walks through the Bhagavatam in this essay very beautifully. He describes 8 different levels from the Bhagavatam. So, I mean, there's all the activities of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, but there's also the principal teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So, this is what I wanted to touch on a little bit today, these teachings. So, within the Bhagavatam, so these 8 stages that he's describing in this document. So, the first stage is called samshaya. This means doubtfulness. There's a doubtfulness in the sadhak's heart when he comes to the ocean of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then that can become somewhat pacified, we can say. And then comes naistikya, which is like atheistic. Even though the truths are revealed, still an atheistic mentality can be lingering in the heart due to our past sanskars and our past sukritis. We're not actually believing in the reality of Krishna as his identity. And then comes a further revelation that Krishna is a form. Krishna, rather, he's not even a form. He's just nirgun. So this mood of nirgun is the third stage that he describes. And then following nirgun, there's the stage of, it's called kliva. This is when it's understood that Krishna is neuter. He's neither male nor female. His gender is neuter. So these 4 stages, he scrolls through the Bhagavatam to demonstrate how these stages are being gradually revealed to the sadhak who has some greed to enter the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then there's the 5th stage of Purush. And this is when Krishna is revealed as being that personality, has form now, has power, potency. And then the 6th stage is Mituna. This is when Krishna is there with his Shakti. So these are all evolutions of consciousness that I'm describing, from doubtfulness to atheistic mentality to a nirgun mentality, and then to a neuter mentality, and then to the Purush, the powerful form, and then finally Mituna, where there's a person and his Shakti. This is like Ramchandra, we can say, in the 9th canto is described. And then the final 2 stages of the Bhagavatam that are revealed is Swakiya Ras and Parakya Ras. These 2 natures of the relationship between Radha and Krishna. And it culminates in the mood of Parakya Ras. This is actually what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted to establish in the world. But most of the time, he laments himself that he was spent cutting the jungles of Mayavad, cutting so many apasiddhantas that had grown up, so many weeds that were there. But this was the principle that he wanted to actually establish. So in this essay, and many essays actually by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, we can read where he's establishing this focus on parakya. And this is remarkable that he has the ability to explain this and in such a way that everyone can be completely peaceful about the acceptance of it. Because in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, Parikshit Maharaj, he asks Shukadev, he says, why is Krishna performing such audacious acts as to dance with other men's wives? And then Shukadev, he answers this question. He says, well, like a fire, you can throw anything into a fire and it always remains, the fire itself will always remain pure. So Krishna is like that fire. He will always remain pure in any circumstances. So this broadness of consciousness is what the sadhak has to pick up on. And this broadness of consciousness, it goes into every facet of our lives. Just like, for example, we can see with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, his immense broadness of consciousness in spreading this mission, how he introduced his disciples to traveling easily, even sometimes taking locomotives and so on. In those days, cars were very rare, but still, he himself would take a car. But this revolutionary mood in his life, which he also applied to understanding the philosophy. It's revolutionary to accept that Krishna will have other men's wives as his consorts. This is a revolutionary conception to appreciate. Prior to Mahaprabhu, to his advent, this was never entertained by the Vaishnavas. So it's a huge monumental shift of consciousness. It's not only in the external activities that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati performed and completely um, in an out of this world way. I mean, what he did on the planet, how he transformed Vaishnavism. He gave it so much body and so much strength, but simultaneously to the external building of 64 mats and so on, he gave the internal appreciation of what is the principle that Mahaprabhu wants us to embrace. That principle is to accept fully the nature of this parakya ras. And when we think of that parakya ras, it brings us into a place of Brajadam. Mahaprabhu has come not just to give bhakti or Shuddha bhakti, he's come to give bhakti ras. So this is the intention of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati coming from Sri Radhika's camp herself. He is Naini Manjari. All of these personalities, they're all in that Manjari mood. And they want to give Vrindavan Dham. They want to give this Braja Prem, Braja Ras. And this is not a simple thing to give amongst the conditioned souls, especially in the darkness of this Kali Yuga. So in essays like the one that I'm describing, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he walks through very analytically, very methodically, these 8 different principles culminating in Parakya Ras. And he's describing in this essay that there's an urgency to educating the world about this Parakya Ras. Once we appreciate that all of Krishna's Shaktis, they're all his principal energies. That's all the gopis are his energies. So why shouldn't he consort with them in any conjugal manner, etc.? But for the sadhak to catch up the real connection in service to Srimati Radhika, it has to be presented in a very methodical way for the intelligence to be able to accept it, first of all. And then once the intelligence can accept it, then that achintya mood of the inconceivable nature of it can replace the intelligence. You understand? We can go from intelligently accepting and being peaceful about that, and then this inconceivable nature of Krishna's pastimes can start to churn in the consciousness. Because without this mood of achintya bhav, we've said so many times, we can't really enter Vrindavan into that astonishing appreciation. You understand what I'm saying? It's a sequence. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has described this sequence at the same time he's cut so many jungles. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is famous for presenting so many prohibitions, we can say. He established the Maryad of the Vaishnava um, mission. He told us how to act, how to behave, etc., in this world very strictly, just like my Gurudev was following exactly the same principle. In his daily life, he was so strict in every way. And yet, because of that strictness, he was able to speak on a very esoteric platform. Do you understand? It's a it's a mood, it's an appreciation. Today I'm just feeling immensely grateful towards this person of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, not only for giving us the mats, but giving us the content to study within the mat. The mat is one idea. The mat is like a shelter for the Vaishnavas to congregate in and chant and exchange and so on. Although his father warned him that it can become very dangerous because when the acharya leaves, then the conditioned jivas, they can begin squabbling, about the assets of the mutt that they've accumulated, which is exactly what happened with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. There was a great war practically on his departure. He was putting these principles there. But we've described yesterday, or the day before yesterday, in connection with Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, how ultimately this is Krishna's plan to separate all the personalities, those powerful personalities in the mutt, to inaugurate their own mutts. Like now, when you cross over into Mayapur, there are so many different mutts along the road as you go up there. And each mutt has its own unique distinction. It has its own unique gifts. And all of these gifts collectively make up the embodiment of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He had so many gifts to give. So they were all opened out into all the personalities that he attracted to him. When he was chanting his billion names, he had the vision of Mahaprabhu we've described before. And Mahaprabhu requested him to begin this mission. He was chanting so much, he was deeply internalizing these conceptions, but then he had to go into the world and distribute in a most remarkable way. He sent even Prem Pradeep, Bon Maharaj, and Bhakti Sarang Goswami Maharaj across to Europe and so on, something that had never been done before, completely revolutionary. But he had impregnated into their hearts the mood of Ras Vichar. This was there. It wasn't just Vaidhi Bhakti. He had given these precepts of the Parakya relationship with Sri Radhika and instructed how to actually proceed in the path of Raganuga Bhakti. Anything less than this, then he wouldn't be faithful to Sachinandan Gaurahari. Mahaprabhu has come to give Rag Mag Bhakti Loke Karite Prajna. That's what he's come to give. So he would not be following completely unless he came to establish this Raganuga Bhakti. And this is most assuredly what he came to establish, even though it seems on the external that he's directing towards Vaidhi Bhakti. But still, as I've explained in this one particular essay, and there are many essays about the progression in Srimad Bhagavatam, principally, because Srimad Bhagavatam is that Amala Purana. It's the crest jewel of all direction and all appreciation and all understanding of what is the bhakti sar, what is the essence of all instruction. The essence of all instruction is nitya prem, and ultimately it's radha dasyam. This is the essence. So see the evolution. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was he didn't have any institutions or anything of that nature, and he wrote prolifically. He established the platform, and he would speak, and he wrote so many incredible bhajans about his own identity as Kamala Manjari, going to the banks to fill up the Jamuna to fill up water, etc. Dekite, Dekite, Vrishabhanu Nandini, so many Vrishabhanu Sutta, so many beautiful, beautiful bhajans he wrote in this way. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he took these truths and he was going to present them to the populace, to humanity. This is the greatest gift, to bring humanity to this ultimate conclusion of Mahaprabhu's gifts. And it's certainly not a simple um, undertaking. And only someone of the greatest stature, someone as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, had the power to establish. We've lived now within the confines of this Gaudiya Math, uh, most of us, our whole devotional life. And of course, for all the Westerners, this is on the back of Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who was completely empowered by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. All of the um, Rupanuga Acharyas, they all are empowering the next generation, so to speak. So this current has been flowing down very strongly. And when it reached Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he had to take the words of his divine master, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he had to plan his mission to how to inaugurate it into the world. And first of all, he saturated India, as we've said, with 64 different mutts in India. He opened schools. He encouraged dioramas, exhibitions. He encouraged Sankirtan, Nam Sankirtan everywhere. And just from a single man, a single person, when he first began his mission, there was only himself. And very early on, Srila Bhakti Keshav Maharaj came, and then gradually, other people came. But initially, he was alone totally, exactly in the same way that our Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was totally alone in the Western world. When he went to the Western world, living in New York for practically more than a year, without any devotional company at all, basically. He was alone doing all of that. Um, very difficult, breaking the ice. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was the same. He was completely alone when he began his mission. But due to their tremendous nishta and their faith and the empowerment totally of Srimati Radhika, and Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji was the embodiment of renunciation. Renunciation means yukta vairagya. It doesn't mean just wearing a loincloth and not eating anything. He would do like that. But that's not the principle of renunciation. The principle of renunciation is that you have an absolute disdain for this material world. You know that you don't belong to this material world. You are from the spiritual world. That is the focus. So Srila Gokishore Das Babaji inspired this within the heart of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So he had all the equipment, all the tools, but principally he had the empowerment from Srimati Radhika coming through Rupa Goswami and all our line to have the ability to establish on the map Rag Marg for posterity. And then Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he takes that, and Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, they take that. Srila Dvaita Madhav Maharaj, he takes that. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, they take these jewels, and then they inaugurate their own missions and their own teachings from this root. Definitely, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati is the Mool. We talk about the Mool Mat, the Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, Akara Mat Raj, Sri Chaitanya Mat, Akara. This is the root Mat that is there today. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was like the root to spread this mission across the planet. And we see today, just today, there must have been 200 or 300 sannyasis there or more. So many, so many. So this is all a compliment to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati that 150 years ago he took his birth, and 100 and what 30 years ago he began his mission. So today we see how powerful that mission was. Why? Because it's Srimati Radhika. Because Srimati Radhika wants it. Because it is totally transcendental. There's nothing material about it at all. So this is why this movement is so potent today. And the most potent aspect of this is to accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as Brajendra Nandan Shyam Sundar. Many times, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati would quote this beautiful verse. Who is Krishna? Aradayo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Tat Dhamma Vrindavanam. He is the son of Nanda Baba in Vrindavan. That is who he is. And Vrindavan Dham is his place, is his home. These conceptions we are praying to imbibe in our lives, because this is the actual gift. And then who worships Krishna in the most powerful way? Ramya Kachit Upasana Vraja Vaduru Vargena Vakalpita. It's the gopis of Vrindavan. We are taking our indication from the gopis. We are in the gopi anugatya. We are following them. Without their mercy, we will not proceed and progress on this path 100%. Without the mercy of Lalita, Vishaka, Champakalata, Induleka, etc., all the Sakis, and especially all the Manjaris, Rupa Manjari, etc., Vilasa Manjari, Lavanga Manjari, Vinod Manjari, Kamala Manjari, all of these personalities, they are all empowering us into Vrindavan Dham. And it's a revolutionary idea. It was never there previously. So amidst this darkness of Kali Yuga, somehow this incredible, brilliant light of the mercy coming from Srimati Radhika is being shone, especially today, especially here in Mayapur Dham today. And it's going to radiate across the planet. There's no doubt that this mission is in good hands. It's a very healthy mission because so many books have been distributed. All of the seeds have gone out. There may be anomalies, there may be difficulties, there may be problems, etc. But nevertheless, the very heart of this mission, which ultimately is to impress this understanding of what is parakya, what is the nature of the relationship between Radha and Krishna. This is what we need. It's not just to become a good person and to perform our various rituals of our practice, like in Vaidhi Bhakti, but it's to move in the direction of Bhav Bhakti. Without moving in the direction of Bhav Bhakti, our sadhan Bhakti is zero. If we're just doing sadhan Bhakti and it's not being focused on Bhav Bhakti, then what is the purpose of our sadhan? What are we hoping to attain by that? Perhaps the four Purusarthas, Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha, which is what even Vyasadeva rejected in the end. So it's this Srimad Bhagavatam that is carrying the light. And to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati very much makes it clear in this particular essay that I'm talking about, is without a firm foundation in the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, we will not understand the Bhagavatam. The teachings of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which ultimately are coming from Rupa Goswami into the heart of Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj, and Sanatan Goswami and Raghunath Das into the heart of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. They are giving us the principal truths about the identity and pastimes of Mahaprabhu in Puri in particular, when he's in the Gambhira, when he's experiencing that Vipralambha, that incredible separation mood from Krishna, when he's in the mood of Aidina Dayadin, um, uh, what's that fifth verse of Shikshastikam? I'm not sitting with scholars here. Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, Patitam Vam Vishvam Bhavambado. This fifth verse of Shikshastikam describes Mahaprabhu is speaking in a mood, a feminine mood, i.e., Nanda. A male will call Are, but Mahaprabhu has fully embraced that identity of Sri Radhika. So he is tasting that immense separation that Radhika experienced from Krishna in the Gambhira. And he wants to share service to that mood through Rupa Goswami, through Sanatan Goswami, through their teachings, how to appreciate this remarkable gift, this jewel. If we read the books of Rupa Goswami, Vidagdha Madhav in particular, and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, these books, then we will begin to understand who is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He's carrying these jewels with him. This is what he wants to distribute to us, the devotees, not just give us temples, not just give us security in uh, a place to perform our devotional acts, but actually to go forward in this Braja Bhav, this Braja Prem, which was the gift of Mahaprabhu. So we have to understand what is that gift. And I've described that according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first 9 cantos are there to make a solid platform for um, appreciating and respecting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having that faith deeply in the heart. And then beyond the first 9 cantos comes the 10th canto, which is the beautiful smiling face of the Lord. And within the 10th canto, starting from the 21st chapter, is the Venu Gita. And then we've got the other 5 Gits, the Venu Gita, the Pranaya Gita, the Yugal Gita, the Gopi Gita, and the Brahmara Gita. How are we going to understand those remarkable pastimes of, they're all expressing the mood of separation. The gopis are calling out in separation in Venu Gita. They're calling out in separation in Pranaya Gita. They're calling out in separation in Gopi Gita. They're calling out in separation in Yugal Gita. Shri Radhika directly is calling out in Brahmara Gita. That's what these Gits are. They're the life airs of the Bhagavatam. And they're filled with these moods of the deepest separation. These are very esoteric topics, but we have to go into this road. What is the distinction between meeting and separation? Our whole life should be considering this particular topic. What is meeting and what is separation? These are very extraordinary topics, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he's supported this. Not only that, he's described this in so many different essays that he's written. Tendency can do something completely contrary to the instructions of Shastra. So Srila Bhakti direct manner is absolutely necessary. We have to be firmly situated on this path. Essay I was going to read, I don't think I have time now, because I want to say something about Srila Bhakti, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, but there's a part here I can just read a little bit. This is from the Uncommon Dialogues, it's called. These are beautiful exchanges. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would have exchanges and letters with so many prominent personalities, the intelligentsia of the time, so to speak. There were many of the British Raj who were very intelligent, and they were so impressed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's erudition. He was like a walking encyclopedia. He was a Shrutidhar. He could remember any page he looked at. And he had absorbed so much of it in material science, etc. So he could talk about any topic in any assembly. But this is one very interesting, beautiful part here about humility and the apparent contradiction of humility when someone is sitting on a big Vyasasana, they've been given garlands, etc., and they're being glorified. How can one maintain his humility in a situation like this? So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he describes this particular incident. He says, the envious, proud person's misconception about non-duplicitous, exalted, about the non-duplicitous, exalted personality, the personification of Trinad Api Sunichena. He says, in today's meeting, an abominable and wretched person has taken charge in delivering a lecture. He's talking about himself. He's saying, I am more sinful than Jagai and Madai, and even lower than the worm in stool. Anyone who hears my name loses the results of his pious activities. Anyone who utters my name becomes sinful. So he's quoting Srila Krishna's Kaviraj here. He's saying this to the audience to begin with. And then he's saying, persons from noble families, experienced persons, and great persons are naturally endowed with good qualities. But who can become such an animal as to be willing to sit and hear his own glories from distinguished persons? Only an extremely sinful person will do so. We have taken charge of accepting such a complaint. He's accepting it, the complaint about himself. Other people are seated in ordinary sitting places, but I have been provided with a raised platform, as if to inform everyone, look at this big animal from the zoo garden. How puffed up he is. Have you ever seen such a sinful and foolish big animal? He's talking about himself. On top of that, he is wearing a flower garland around his neck. How shamelessly he sits and hears his own praise with selected words and adjectives. He is happy, for he is acting against the teachings of Mahaprabhu. He's throwing it in their face because he knows the envious nature of the world. They were so envious they tried to kill him in Paramatala. We heard yesterday, day before yesterday. This is the nature of the envious material world. So he's throwing it in their faces so he can purify it. Um, he's happy, he's sitting against the teachings of Mahaprabhu. So how can such a foolish propensity, Amare agyan guru hoine desh, I am a totally foolish person. I am very good instruction. When no one instructed me, then I informed Prabhu. I thought it is better that I give him responsibility for me and see what he asks me to do. At that time, Gaurasundar ordered me, Yare deke tare kahi Krishna Upadesh, Amare egyan guru hane tare edesh. Instruct everyone to follow the order of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in the land. He is following the instructions of Mahaprabhu. He's sitting on the raised platform, he's wearing a garland, but he is directly following the instructions of Mahaprabhu. He who teaches that one should become lower than a blade of grass himself says, Emare agyan guru hane tare edesh. Mahaprabhu is giving the order, act as a spiritual master like me. Whomever you meet, you instruct about this. This is the order of Chaitanya Dev. Become a spiritual master on my order and deliver the people of the world. Deliver people from their ignorance. Whoever is hearing this is saying with folded hands, I am an atheist and fallen. How can I become a spiritual master? You are the supreme personality of Godhead. You are the spiritual master of the universe. You can become a spiritual master, but I cannot. Mahaprabhu replies. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further advised the Brahmana Kurma, if you follow this instruction, your materialistic life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. Indeed, if you follow these regulative principles, we will again meet here, or rather, you will never lose my company. So he's instructing people in the real precepts of humility. Humility means that you actually take the front seat to try to purify the conditioned souls, regardless of any um, um, criticism that may come to you. Just like my Gurudev, for example, was determined to spread this path of Rag Marg, even with so much opposition, even within the Gaudiya Math at that time. But still, this was the most humble path because he was following the precepts of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the same manner, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati is completely following the principles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and establishing himself as that Jagat Guru for the purpose of delivering the conditioned souls. This is why he's doing it. Not we will think as conditioned souls, oh, he's just enjoying the um, Taranga Rangini, it's described, the waves of the pleasure of bhakti. One of the uh, um, what do you call it? Huh? Yeah, yeah. The uh, not stages. One of the defects in our the obstacles in our devotion is this Taranga Rangini, which means when you're practicing bhakti nicely, many wonderful, auspicious things come to you. And if you start to relish all those things and neglect the path of bhakti, then you've actually fallen down from that place. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he's accepted so many followers, he's accepted so much wealth, etc. He's accepted so much praise, but he's even in this essay calling himself the animal who's sitting on the Vyasasana. He has that strength and that power. He's not afraid of anything. And that fearlessness came from his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who fearlessly walked in the world and spread this Vaishnava Dharma. And that fearless mood was impregnated in the heart of Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in order to perform his mission in the Western world. And that same fearlessness came to Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. And that same fearlessness came in the heart of my Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. Without that fearless mood, you cannot actually make an impression in the conditioned souls' hearts of this material world. So this fearlessness is very much um, shining brightly in the character and nature of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. So I've tried to say something of the internal mood of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, what he really wanted to give. He really wanted to give this Raganuga Bhakti. He talks many times about Srimati Radhika in a mood of Swadhina Bhartika, the heroine who controls her lover, etc. There are so many essays about this, but in particular, this mood I've tried to share today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, culminating in Parakya Ras. And the praman for this Parakya Ras is within the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. So I believe this is very much an urgent message of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. We can also like to say just a few words. We don't have much time left about Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was also totally fearless. He was living in the same current as Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, but he was in a society which was not allowing him to speak the truth. This is the reality of his situation. He wanted to speak clearly, for example, Jiva Tattva. He knows that the Jiva has not fallen from this spiritual world. That is completely fictitious. That is not in line with any of our acharyas. No one has said like that. It's only in that the misinterpreted that. And Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Prabhupada, he says categorically in the 7th canto, in the 1st chapter, in the 35th verse, he says, it is a fact that no one falls from Vaikuntha. It's an absolute fact that no one falls from Vaikuntha. And yet that whole society has propagated the idea that we fell from the spiritual world. It is completely apasiddhantic. So Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj could not tolerate this. And he preached strongly around the world that this is not the right conception. And for that, he was ostracized by the leaders of ISKCON. And he was pushed into a corner, basically. And he also wrote a wonderful book on Guru Tattva, expressing who is a Shuddha Guru, who is a pure Guru. And it doesn't line up with the gurus that were representing Srila Prabhupada at that time. So they weren't people, the leaders at that time, they had realized what Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was born as a Vaishnava. He was born in a Vaishnava family. That was his roots. His ancestry was from a Vaishnava family. And he was very, very clear on what is absolute Siddhanta and Tattva. So he could preach boldly. But the others in that group were not of the same caliber at all. So they were trying to compromise with the people, etc., and appear to be very friendly with everyone and not cutting like a pure devotee will cut at the core of the problem. They won't pussyfoot around it. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was like that. But I can remember back in the 80s, early 80s, I would serve the different Vaishnavas in Mayapur. I'd go to all the different rooms and serve the different sannyasis that all have their laptops and be working like that. I'd come into the room of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, and there was just piles of books. He would be sitting on his bed with a big book on his lap, and he'd have all these other piles of books around him. And it was a totally different atmosphere completely. He was immersed in the philosophy. He was immersed in Radha Bhav. He was immersed in Krishna Prem. I just share with you one experience. My former wife, she was the last person to ever speak with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. Her and another girl called Chandrika from Hawaii. They came into the room of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, and I think this must have been 19, what was it, 1996, and they were speaking with him about the meeting of Radha and Krishna at Kurukshetra. They had heard from my Gurudev, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj, about this meeting, and they wanted to hear Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, who's also written extensively about this meeting. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj became very animated and was describing these beautiful topics. But at that particular time, he'd been pushed into a corner so strongly by the ISKCON men who didn't want him to publish his Guru Tattva book. And he didn't know any other way because they were not going to give him any space to substantiate the real principles of Shuddha Bhakti. They wanted him to follow a party line, which was not correct. So they'd pushed him into a corner very strongly, and he saw no other way out without leaving the Society of ISKCON, which he never wanted to do because his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, had instructed him, you stay in this society. Then he had a boon from birth that he could leave his body at will. So then he just decided after that meeting with those two women that he would leave his body practically 3 or 4 minutes after that meeting, because these two ladies, they came out and they were going down the stairs, and then suddenly these brahmacharis, they were flying past them on the stairs, and one of them turned around and said, those are the two that actually murdered our Gurudev. Oh. This is what they said. They went, Bengali, they just went completely crazy. They were trying to accuse these two women of inspiring Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj too strongly, because almost straight after that conversation, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he left this world. And then those two women, they had to hide in the temple for the whole night because all these Bengalis were searching for who these were. These were the followers of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. They weren't so educated, and they were thinking that these two women had something to do with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj leaving his body. But Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was very, very, very powerful preacher. And he preached against the entire establishment of the ISKCON group at that time. And in the end, he had to leave his body because he couldn't make any headway. They were just diligently remaining in their fortress of Apasiddhanta. He couldn't penetrate them. But there were many young souls who came to Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, and his mission is still carrying strongly today. There are so many disciples of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj around the planet who will be celebrating his Tirobhav Mahotsav today. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he chose to leave out of his humility on the day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati's appearance, because he knew that everyone would be glorifying Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati on this day, and then they wouldn't be glorifying him so much. This was his extreme humility. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was the most beautiful personality. I'm very fortunate to have had such close association with him in so many instances, and so many pastimes I had with him. And he showed me so much kripa and mercy. And I listened carefully to all his. I had never heard before in my life the sort of teachings that he was giving, because they were not the same teachings as the rest of ISKCON were actually giving. They were teachings about Braja Prem. They were teachings about Radha Bhav. These were the teachings that he was giving back then. And he would give lectures for 2 or 3 or 4 hours even in Bhubaneswara. He established that incredible temple in Bhubaneswara, and much to the opposition of the ISKCON group again. But Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he lived with him on that land in Bhubaneswara for, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks. I can't remember exactly, but it was a long period of time for Prabhupada to stay with one disciple. He knew this personality was going to carry on the principal teaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this principal teaching, like I've described with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, is definitely Raganuga Bhakti. It's nothing less than that. The Vaidhi Bhakti must be maintained, that Maryad. But within that fortress of Maria, there must be the current of Ragmarg flowing. If there's not, then there's no substance to Mahaprabhu's mission. It must be there. 100% it must be there. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was really an supporter completely of this Radha Dasya mood. So we are very fortunate today to have an opportunity to speak something of his glories. And I feel so blessed with being able to offer something to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. I feel so grateful to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati today. I feel he's given me all that I know in this world, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He's given me a complete foundation. He's given me protection all the way through, coming from Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, all the way through. If these truths weren't told strongly, you wouldn't have complete faith in them. So it's these luminaries who tell these strong, and you catch that truth. And all the rest of the millions of other voices, you just ignore. Those noisy people who aren't speaking the truth, saying we fell from the spiritual world or something like that. You know our position. It's our duty to know our position. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he established this very, very strongly. So many things. He would practically weep when he saw a peacock feather sticking on the head of Mahaprabhu on the altar. Little things like this, were really, he made an impression on us, He never wanted, because he knew who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. He's the covered avatar. Don't dress him up to be something that is not compatible with his identity. You understand? So Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. 150th anniversary celebration of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Prabhupada. May our mission, our movement continue to be strong internally. It's the internal place. In English, we say you have form and you have function, right? You have the form, which is outside, and you have the function of the form, which is in. You build a big temple, but what are you going to put inside it? What are the teachings you're going to propagate? That's the more important feature, not the external. The external can be the biggest in the world. So what? Unless you're holding on to the biggest truth of the world and propagating that, your external monument is zero. Really. And what is the biggest shining truth that Mahaprabhu has come to give? The nature of this parakiya ras, which means you have to come to Srila Rupa Goswami's lotus feet to understand this. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati will direct us to his noble father, and all the way through Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Krishnas Kaviraj, all to this point. We have to come to that point. So form or function, which is more important? The function is always the essence. Rupanuga Guru Vargya ki jai, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati ki jai. Please forgive any mistakes I've made in offering. I do know who is Mahaprabhu according to the teachings of my beloved Gurudev. I do know what are the tattvas and siddhantas according to Rupa Goswami, according to Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I know what this is very clearly. And I know our direction very clearly. There's no room for doubt at all in our focus, our goal. And our goal is this Ragmarg Bhakti Loke Karite Prajan. This is what we have to propagate in the world. And if we're not propagating it, then we have to become educated so we can propagate it. Jai Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Vargya ki jai. Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Gaura Haribol. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Gaura Haribol, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Haribol. Vanshakapatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha.